Good morning, Senator. Welcome back to the show.
Great to be here.
So, all right, I did an analysis some months ago where I looked at Congressman Daines's voting record when he was in over in 2013. And it showed that he was the most conservative member to be elected to the House of Representatives in Montana. When you get to the House, what's your voting record going to look like?
Well, Steve and I are pretty similar, although I'm going to focus on working families because working families are struggling. And the American dream is important to protect and to make sure that people can obtain the American dream. That's the promise. That's having a good job, making sure you have a good education, make sure that you can buy a house if you choose, and make sure you protect the opportunity for our kids to have the same opportunity.
What can you do in the Congress to make sure people have good education?
You know, education, I think choice is important. I think you're looking at standards are important, and local control is important. You know, I toured around the state and looked at jobs. I think vocation we're lacking on. If you want to have an aptitude in welding, for instance, there's jobs in Montana that pay $26 to $30 an hour that are available right now. I think the oil industry, looking at pipe fitting, and I really don't care if you're union or not union. What's important to me is that you have a job, and the job can pay a decent wage so you can make a living in Montana.
What would you do to help vo-tech education, for example?
Well, I think we need to concentrate on it because the college path might not be appropriate for everybody, but Montana, there's still the skills. And I come from 3 generations of plumbers. Mm-hmm. And so we're pretty blue collar, but again, in Montana, looking at the industry forward, the Flathead has a lot of gun manufacturing, which is CNT work, machinists. Billings is increasing their breadth in welding components. Bozeman, we say Bozeman's high tech, but Bozeman has a pretty good industry in manufacturing as well. That's backpacks, for instance, with Mystery Ranch and those. And across the state, I think we do need to focus a little more on at least having the vocation track available if kids have an aptitude for it.
There has been a ton of talk about these Common Core standards in schools, and I can tell you, at least from my own perspective, I've had difficulty helping my daughter with her math in 3rd grade. Yeah. What do you think about this? Is this something that these Common Core standards a good thing or a bad thing in your?
Well, it'll be interesting because Governor Jindal has a lawsuit, on it. Primarily, is it constitutionally appropriate? I think education. Local control is important. I honor the local school boards. I honor make sure we have school choice and making sure we're preparing the kids for the jobs of the future and not the past. And some of the jobs in the future are more high-tech orientated for those. I'm concerned about we're losing the aptitude in foreign languages, being able to communicate. And then we talked about vocation. There's some schools that are doing a phenomenal job, secondary schools. I think MSU Northern, with their program on diesel mechanics, those kids they're graduating, job offers, 12 of them sometimes in the $60,000 to $70,000 range. That's impressive.
Would you actually advocate for some sort of legislative help to advocate for foreign language teaching in elementary schools in Montana?
Well, I don't think we have to do it legislatively. I think you need to have an incentive for it and let the school boards have flexibility to do it. Okay. And provide some incentives so the school boards, can make that decision. Some schools are doing really, really well, and some schools are struggling. And in Billings, the #1 economy in the state, has 500 homeless high school kids in Billings. So there's a lot of challenges in Montana too that we need to talk about that are serious.
All right. Well, thanks for coming back on the show. Appreciate you being here as always.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thanks.